Disclaimer. These stories will contain graphic depictions of horror elements, including, but not limited to, gore, graphic depictions of violence, body horror, murder, just all the horror. So please exercise caution when listening. Good evening. Welcome to Sniper's Creepy Crypt, the spookiest place in the here and there, the place between where you're coming from and where you might never leave. I am Sniper Shadow, and I am here in this our month of the horror and macabre to bring you tales of the utmost terrifying. These tales are not my own. I simply overhear them from passers-by. Sniper's Creepy Crypt is open for 31 days and 31 days only, before it disappears for another year. So join us for some horror from the depths of the hell dimensions.
My mother and I had been fighting, and she locked herself in the bedroom in our tiny one-bedroom apartment. Having nowhere else to sleep, I grabbed a blanket from the hallway closet and laid down on the couch watching TV. I must have passed out because it felt like I had blinked when I heard a knock at the door. Knowing my mother had visitors at strange hours, nothing seemed strange about this, so I answered the door. No words were exchanged as I saw the stranger standing there in the doorway. Nothing stood out about this strange man, except that his face was covered by shadow. Hours seemed to pass as I waited for him to say anything. "You're here for my mother, aren't you?" I asked the strange man with a tired, almost exhausted look on my face. The stranger just stands there with his head pointed downward at me and says nothing, so I slammed the door in his face and lay back down when I noticed the time on the VCR, 3:14 a.m. I refused to sleep in the living room the next night and convinced my mother, even though we were fighting, to stay in the living room while I slept in the bed, safe from the door, safe from the stranger. I fell asleep quickly, very comfortable under the comforter, with my comfortable pillows surrounding my young head. Seemingly right after I close my eyes, I hear a tapping at the window. I bolt up out of my bed in a cold sweat, knowing exactly what I would find. Being a terrifying young child as I was at the time, I was afraid to open the curtain and see what was tapping on the pane of glass. Sound is ringing in my ears, and no matter how tightly I pack my fingers into my ears, I can still hear it. I give up and stand up on the bed, trembling. I open the curtain and see the faceless figure. Terrified, I froze for what seemed like forever. This time I began to notice things I hadn't in my last exhausted state. He was wearing a hoodie and a trucker's cap, included his eyes, and left all but his nose and mouth covered in shadow. His unmoving mouth did not say a single word, just remained closed and chapped. Being nothing but a frightened child, I was unable to do anything, frozen in fear until the clock radio in the corner of the room went off, blaring unbearable static. I turned around to turn off the radio, but when I looked back at the window, the man was no longer there. The clock radio read 3:14 a.m. This went on for weeks, night after night, waking up to a knock, that same knock from that same man in the hoodie and jeans, startling me awake from the deepest sleep, the most marvelous dreams. I would shake in terror, afraid to open the door or look outside of the window. The same wordless stretch of endless examination that always ended in something startling me and snapping me back to reality at exactly 3:14 a.m. I had to escape. I couldn't face the fear any longer. I talked my mother into letting me spend the night at my friend's house, but not even then. would that keep him at bay? I woke up to something standing over me, staring at me with his piercing glare. Unable to move, all I could do was stare upwards into the shadow created by his hat. "How did you get here? How did you get inside when the door's locked?" I asked, with the first words spoken between us since that first night. To which the only answer I got was a grin from his normally frozen mouth. I jumped up as my friend yelled at me, "Who are you talking to?" And with that, he was gone. I didn't even have to look at the time. I told my friend I must have been talking in my sleep and to go back to bed. That was the last time I saw him for years. I was just a child then, no older than 10. I saw him once more, just recently, a week after my 24th birthday. I had forgotten him, pushed those weeks of terror deep into my brain, never to be recovered. It was the only way to maintain any sort of sanity. When out of nowhere, there's a knock on the window of my 5th floor apartment, and in that moment, I remembered everything. Every last detail flooded me, as I was that scared 10-year-old quivering under my blankets. The smell of my old apartment filled the air, the stench of dirty dishes and alcohol. I stood up, wrapped a blanket around myself, then opened the curtain. There was nothing there. I stood there quizzically for a minute, before I shook it off as nothing more than paranoia. I turned around to lay back down in my soft, comfortable bed, when there he was, standing no more than 4 feet away from me, wearing the same hoodie and pants, with the same blank expression on his face. "The rest are gone now." "What do you mean the rest are gone?" "You're the only one left." Saying nothing more, he simply turned around and walked through my bedroom door. "What do you mean?" I scream out frantically. "What do you mean I'm the only one?" I rushed down the hallway to my roommate's room and bashed my knuckles against his door. Without waiting for a reply, I opened his door to find nobody there. Then I ran down the stairs into the street to find everything was deserted. No animals, no people. I was truly alone. That was 2 weeks ago, and I'm about to go insane. I'm writing this in case there is anybody else around. I'm about to run out of power. There hasn't been any electricity in 4 days. I hope this reaches somebody. Anybody. I just want there to be someone out there. I can't do this. There has to be something out there. I don't want to be alone anymore. Everywhere I go, thinking there will be survivors, there aren't. Nothing but silence. Deafening silence.
That concludes our tale for today. Return tomorrow for another horror-filled experience. Wherever you come from and wherever you're going, thank you for spending some time here with us at Sniper's Creepy Crypt. Remember, traveler, eyes ahead, don't look back. Until next time, good night and good luck.